If you come with me to Luke chapter 17, verses 28 to 32. And Jesus speaking in here, I'm sure we all know that, and he says, likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Verse 32, what does it say? Remember Lot's wife. And that's where the title comes from. Remember Lot's wife. Now here is Jesus talking about the events of the last days in the world's history, right? That's the context. And in this context, he tells us, remember Lot's wife. Now, Jesus didn't say, remember Lot. He said, remember Lot's wife. What is it about Lot's wife, about Lot and the story of Lot and what was happening back then that we are to remember?
Don't look back.
Don't look back? Okay. Thank you. Don't look back. Is there anything else? Well, what I thought is, come all the way out of Sodom. Thank you. Thank you. What I thought is we go back, we look at the story, we read it, and we see what we can learn from it. Is there anything that applies to us today? So if you come back with me to Genesis chapter 19, we'll be spending most of our time in that chapter, Genesis chapter 19, where the story is found. And we'll be going through that story verse by verse and seeing if there is anything we can learn. That's not hard to do, is it? Very simple, straightforward. So, Genesis chapter 19. Are we all there? Genesis chapter 19. And starting at verse 1. Now, before we start reading the story, I believe that in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the story of Lot and his wife, it is a miniature of the last day events of what the wicked will be doing, what the righteous will be doing, and all these things are summarized for us in the story of Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah and his wife. So we'll begin reading in verse 1, just the first few words, and it says, and there came two angels to Sodom at even. Stop for a second. Now, we're all familiar with the story, right? In Genesis chapter 18, how many messengers came? 3. Who were they? Jesus and 2 angels. But yet in Genesis 19, we see 2 angels. Now, I find it very interesting that the 2 angels that came to Sodom, they brought a message to Sodom and a message to come out of Sodom. And then in Genesis chapter 19, verse 24, it tells us, then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of... How many Lords are mentioned there? 2. One is Jesus who was on earth, and the other one is the Father who is up in heaven. So, 2 angels, 2 messengers went into Sodom. They took a message to Sodom and a message to come out of Sodom. And the third messenger rained fire and brimstone. Does this remind you of anything? The people that are living in the last days, what message will they hear? The 3 angels' messages. The first message is an appeal. Worship God. The hour of judgment is come. Get ready. The second message is what? Come out of Babylon. Come out of Sodom and Gomorrah. And the third message is fire and brimstone. So I find it very interesting that the angels, the messages rather, of Sodom and Gomorrah represent the 3 angels' messages that will be given to those who are living in the last days. So this sets the scene for us that what will happen in Sodom and Gomorrah is an ensample, as we saw last night, of what will happen in the last days. Yes? Okay, let's keep reading verse 1. That's Genesis 19. We're still at Genesis 19 and verse 1. there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. So when the angels came to Sodom and Gomorrah, what was Lot doing?